Are you tired of hearing talking heads speculate about the economy? Us too. So we booked a real expert instead. Paul Krugman is up next. It's the economy, stupid, so how should we cover it wisely? We've all seen the headlines. They're impossible to miss. The economy is slowing, declining, shrinking, and the phrase of the week is recession fears. It's what you see in every banner, recession fears. Economists seem to be struggling to explain this weird economy, maybe the weirdest economy we ever lived through. People want to know, is this a recession or not? The White House is arguing about the definition of the term. The media is basically caught up in that debate as well. There's a lot of confusion about it. He is, of course, the Nobel Laureate and economist, a distinguished professor at the City University of New York's Graduate Center, and a longtime columnist for the New York Times. Can we dispense with the recession debate real quick? Are we in a recession, and does the term matter?
No, we aren't, and no, it doesn't. I mean,
one sentence. That was it, huh?
Yeah, that was it. It's none of the usual criteria that real experts use says that we're in a recession right now. And what does matter? The state of the economy is what it is. Jobs are abundant, although maybe the job market is weakening. Inflation is high, though maybe inflation is coming down. What does it matter whether you use the R word or not?
Certainly the White House was trying to encourage reporters to use the technical definition, but certainly many are using a broader definition. So this is going to go on for a while, and I feel like everybody's playing their roles the way you would expect them to play their roles.
Yeah, I would say that this is especially vitriolic. I mean, I get, I've been in this business for a couple of decades and get lots of hate mail and see stuff. I've never seen anything as bad as this. The determination of a lot of people to say it's a recession is above and beyond anything I've ever seen. So I think that what's happening now is that there's been a kind of a negativity bias in coverage. The press should be giving people have their own personal experience, and if you ask people how are you doing, they're pretty upbeat. There are signs that, people are complaining now, especially about things like gas prices, although those have come down in the last 6 weeks. But if you ask people, how's your financial situation, it's pretty favorable. If you ask them, how's the economy, they say, oh, it's terrible. And that's a media failing. Somehow we're failing to convey the realities of what's going on to people.
The New York Times recently asked you and a bunch of your colleagues to write a I was wrong article, something you were wrong about. And here's yours, Paul. I was wrong about inflation. So tell us about this reassessment and why you decided to do it.
Well, the Times thought that it would be good to have a feature in which people did talk about what they were wrong about, which I think is a good idea.
Right. So why were you wrong about inflation, and what do we need to know now about it?
There were some reasons why I didn't think inflation was going to be a problem, and it turns out I was wrong. It's a complicated world out there, and if you never make a wrong prediction, you're not taking enough risks.
What are those dystopian myths? What do people need to know about that?
Well, first of all, there's the specific issue of the whole Black Lives Matter demonstrations, which a large part of the country, certainly a lot of the mail I get, people think that lots of Manhattan was burned to the ground. They think that this was an enormously destructive thing, when in fact, yes, there was some arson and looting, but actually really not very much in a country the size of the United States and for demonstrations that size. So they think that.
Can I clarify, Paul? That's because whenever we're talking about the January 6th hearings, the likes of Sean Hannity always say, well, why aren't you investigating the summer of 2020 riots? That's what they say basically every day.
Right. Yeah, and you're in Manhattan, right? I mean, you know that there it is not a burned out shell. This just never happened, but they're told that it did.
There were windows shattered in my building, and it was awful, and we cleaned it up the next day, and that's what people do. Sorry, I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the other is about crime. Now, we have in fact had a significant surge in murders since the pandemic, probably because social isolation and all of that, which has been nationwide. And is broad. It's about as much increase in rural areas and small towns as it is in big cities. But the idea, and it varies a lot among cities, but New York, of course, is everybody's favorite. And a lot of the country thinks that New York is an extremely dangerous place, which it once was. A lot of people think that New York now is New York of 1975 with large no-go areas and high murder rates, when in fact it's one of the safest places in America, even after this rise in crime. It's still way less crime than there was in 1990.
So that's another area where media coverage matters so much. Paul, thank you very much for coming on. Good talking with you.